Hi, everyone. Joseph Lavoie here. Welcome to Business is Politics. Before we start the show today, a quick favor. If you can, if you're enjoying the content I'm producing, please give the podcast a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. It means a lot to me and it'll help me reach a larger audience. Now, let's get on with the show today. We are on power number 6 in the framework I'm developing around the 8 regulatory powers that the most successful businesses use to become commercially successful. Power number 6, regulatory adaptability and ecosystem control. This one's a bit of a doozy. Regulatory adaptability I define this as the strategic power derived from a company's ability to control critical components of its industry's ecosystem. And by doing so, it gets to influence regulatory environments, it gets to shape regulatory standards, and it can quickly adapt to regulatory changes, even if they're out of its control. Why does this power matter? Well, by exercising control over key platforms, technologies, and networks, a company can do several things. One, it can set de facto standards. It establishes norms that may be adopted by regulators as industry standards. By controlling the ecosystem, a company can set practices that regulators may formalize into laws or regulations. 2, gets to influence regulatory outcomes. Leverage ecosystem control to advocate for favorable regulations. Ecosystem control provides a platform to engage with regulators and policymakers effectively. Third thing it gets to do is adapt swiftly to regulatory changes. Implementing necessary changes across the ecosystem efficiently ensures the business can be in compliance. Quick adaptation to new regulations sets a compliance benchmark for the industry. And the fourth thing it does is it creates regulatory barriers for competitors. Shaping the regulatory landscape in ways that favors the company's ecosystem makes it challenging for competitors to comply or compete with the business. Companies can use their ecosystem's success and consumer benefits to argue against unfavorable regulations. I've been using Apple as an example. Yesterday, I used Netflix. Let's cover both of these off and see how they leverage the power of regulatory adaptability and ecosystem control. So, how does Apple do this? Well, it controls, as you know, its entire software and hardware environment ecosystem, and that lets it set industry trends. So, think about how Apple removed the headphone jack and introduced Face ID. It was able to set the standard for the entire industry, and that forced regulators to look to Apple when developing technical standards, especially on areas that Apple owns a lot of mindshare on, and that's security and privacy. Its closed ecosystem means it can quickly comply with new laws like the EU's GDPR or California's Consumer Privacy Act, and it sets the example for how multinationals can effectively comply with complex regulations across jurisdictions. And even when Apple loses, like when it was forced to switch from its proprietary Lightning jack on its iPhones to the more universal USB-C, it was able to adapt on a dime, barely a hiccup, in its ability to roll out the next generation of iPhones when it was forced to comply. So it gives it immense power and adaptability. Netflix also serves as an interesting example here. It owns and continuously develops its streaming technology. It optimizes content delivery for the user experience, and its innovations in compression algorithms and adaptive streaming protocols have become industry norms. Now, why would that have an impact on their regulatory environment? Well, its technology adjusts video quality in real time based on a user's internet bandwidth. And that demonstrates efficient bandwidth usage, which then means Netflix informs regulatory debates on network management and net neutrality. Competitors are forced to react, adopt similar technology, or develop their own, and that reinforces these practices as industry practices. So there we are, 2 examples of 2 successful brands using the power of regulatory adaptability and ecosystem control to shape their industry norms and regulatory outcomes.